It's now the 11th of September, 1998. I'm in San Francisco at the Hotel Diva with Armando Peraza, who I've known for over 30 years, who was one of my great inspirations in my early days of listening to Afro-Cuban when I would see him perform with George Shearing. And I was still going to college at the time, and I really couldn't chase after this music too much, but it set a target that I would go after the rest of my life.
Armando Peraza, where do I begin? 35 years ago, he was my teacher. I wanted to play congas. I saw Sheila E. play and I said, I could do that. Little did I know. I asked him for lessons and he was willing to give me lessons, and we were together for a couple of weeks and he goes, I'm gonna marry you. And I says, are you kidding me? Are you crazy? Are you out of your mind? So 35 years later, here we are. He was brilliant in so many different areas of life. Just common sense, his politics. He always fought for the underdog. The little guy. And the little guys sometimes were his fellow musicians, and who he'd, give them verbal lashings. But if somebody else tried, he'd be on guard and ready to fight for his friend.
I've been talking with a lot of other drummers, a lot of my contemporaries during this time, and every single other drummer that I talk to has a similar story of how Armando went out of his way to pump them up in some way, to have them feel like they were worthy.
He was very jovial, very, happy, and you ask him questions, he would tell you, and he would ask you how you doing, you playing? I said, yes. He goes, you gigging? I said, well, I had a gig for a while and I lost a gig. He goes, hey, don't worry about that. He goes, you get another gig. He goes, you know why? I go, why? He goes, it's not your turn right now. He goes, you played there for over a year, right? I go, yeah. He goes, not your turn now, it's somebody else's turn. You don't think about it that way until he opened that for you and say, wow, he's right, it's not my turn, it's somebody else's turn. Let them play now. And you go watch them play and you learn from them and you say, God, he's right.
Carl, Armando, and myself, we were doing a clinic in Amsterdam at the Milky Way. And we're in the back room, the dressing room. And there's all the groups that are going to be performing that day are back there, hanging out, warming up. And there was a Cuban group, like a Rumba group. I don't know who they were. And so Armando's looking at him. He's looking at me and Carl. And me and Carl could tell that he was kind of up to something. He used to. He had this thing, I've got to say something. And we're like, oh wait, Armando, you're not gonna. We don't know what you're gonna do, but we don't think you should do it, whatever it is. Anyway, he gets up, he walks over to all these Cuban guys, and he starts talking to them. He says, so you guys are from Cuba? Yeah, me too. See those two guys over there? That Mexican, Italian guy, little guy there, and that little guy, the little Filipino, Polish, German guy? Well, those guys are going to be kicking your Cuban ass today. And he's laughing. I mean, no pressure, right? But that was the kind of encouragement that he used to give me and Carl and the ones he loved. And plus, he believed in us. And that was really important, to get that kind of validation from a master like that.
And that's something about him that for all the years I knew him, that's what he did. Without any limits. Whatever he could do to pump you up and support what you did. I thought it was only me, but as I talked to other drummers this week, everybody else had a similar story. And that's an amazing person. It's an amazing artist to do that for somebody else.
He was a little eccentric.
I think, yeah, I would say more than a little. Because Armando, because he would just surprise you. He was so street. He was street. That came off right away. But when you talk to him, he'd surprise you with stuff that he'd talk about. He'd start telling you about historical stuff about the problem in the Middle East between the Jews and the Palestinians. He'd know historical stuff around Africa, around all kinds of subjects. He would surprise you. He would also surprise because he liked the attention. And so he'd talk loud. He'd slap you when he talked to you.
Pound your chest and let you know what he had for breakfast.
Most certainly.
In the course of the conversation, you'd have a bruise here. And you had to give him 5. Am I right? Am I right? And you go like this. And he hold his hand up until you put your hand out and he'd slap your hand. Ah.
and he'd get up and show you what he's talking about. If he's talking about baseball or boxing, he'd get up and tell you, get up in a restaurant.
Armando Peraza was like a machine.
Oh yeah, it was just that way. He put both hands on your one hand on each shoulder and nose to nose. That was just him, and it was so hilarious. He would do it with everybody. He was just so passionate about anything and everything. He had this grand curiosity from a child.
And the next thing Armando does is says something really, really softly in your ear, and then he gets right into your face and he goes, am I right?
And when he was right, he would tell you, am I right? Am I right?
Am I right? Am I right? You know, I mean, he always, he would, tell me something and then ask that. All of us know that.
And he would always do that, am I right? And you could, feel his throat almost in your face.
Get right in your face. He would definitely touch almost your nose. And he would ask you, do you know what I mean? I would say, Armando, of course I know what you mean. I mean, I could not understand what you mean. You're right into my face.
He would get right in your face. Armando got in your face. And his nose would touch my nose. And he would go, pero Mingo, don't let him hear your tunes. And it's like, Armando, if I don't let him hear my music, how am I going to get any music out there? Mingo, never let him hear your tunes. And it's like, wow, man. The other thing is, he would go, now, how many of you remember this? You know what I mean? And loudly, so people would think that you're getting in a fight or something. You'd say, hey, no, get up, no, check it out, no, put your hands up, drop that one, see what happened? You come over here, and if you come around with the left, or you have the uppercut, and he'd start telling about what certain boxers did, but he was right on the money. He was a scientist about that. He could have easily been a boxing coach. He did serve as a baseball advisor for Hall of Fame players. Orlando Cepeda from Puerto Rico, Tony Oliva from the Minnesota Twins, who was a Cuban player. A lot of the players, they knew him, and they knew that he knew about baseball. When they would go into a slump, they would call him. And he could advise them based on what he saw on TV. He'd tell them, you're dropping your shoulder or whatever. He would help them out.
But what's happened to me, Martin, I have a strong attitude. Strong is, say I don't write something, I tell you in your face. See, you mistreated me, I tell you in your face. You see, because I work from the street, I know where the struggle is. You understand what I mean? But si I have to live with you with hypocrisy, it's not me. Because you're human, I'm a human. We are entitled to make mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
But we can compromise. But si I want to talk about your reputation and your bad, no, I tell you, I don't like the way you behave with me. Sometimes a lot of people don't accept that. See, because a lot of people can talk to you in your face, say a lot of things, but they don't like you. But they know for certain reason. If I was made a mistake, I apologize to you. Because I'm wrong. I don't have any ground in my integrity to say that I'm right. Eventually, I was a struggle for my attitude, including to today, okay?